Hi, Peppermint Patty Group. So we're back for another guided reading lesson, and what we're going to do this week is we are going to do an analogy chart just like we did a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to work with that silent E sound. So we'll talk about that in just a second. And then we're going to talk about a new strategy that you probably use already, but we're just going to review it and make sure that you're using it all the time, and it's called Eagle Eye. And then we're going to read a book called In the Ocean, which is a nonfiction book about all the different things that you might find in the ocean. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's get started with our analogy chart. So this might look familiar because we did something just like this a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully you'll kind of remember it and it'll be a little bit easier for you this time. So what I want you to do is I want you to make sure you get a piece of paper, a board, something to write on, and go ahead and make this T-chart that you see right here, and go ahead and write the word make and the word like, just like I did on my chart. And then once you've done that, go ahead and come back and join me and we will work on our analogy chart. We'll work on that silent E. Okay, so let's get started with our analogy chart. So the first thing that I want to make sure that we talk about is that silent E. It is such an important letter when we're learning to read. And you may already know this, and that's fine. If you do, that's wonderful. But if you don't, then make sure that you're paying really close attention, because it's going to be really important when we're working with our words today on our analogy chart. If you do already know it, then just listen, and this will be really good review. It's always good to review things. So when we work with that silent E, anytime you see a silent E at the end of a word, it's going to change the other vowel sound. So we know a vowel has two sounds, right? It has the short sound, like in A, ah, but it also has a long and strong sound. Like in A, it's the A sound. So whenever you put a silent E on the end of a word, it's going to change that other vowel to a long and strong vowel sound. So if we look at our words right here, well, if I have this silent E at the end of my word, then that means that it's going to change this other vowel, my A. Instead of saying ah, it's going to say A. It's going to change it to that long and strong sound. So instead of saying mac, it's going to say make. I'm changing that A sound. Same thing with my word like. If I have a silent E on the end, it's going to change this I sound to the long and strong I sound. So instead of saying I, like I, I'm going to say my long and strong I sound. So instead of saying lick, it says like. I'm going to change that vowel sound. So kind of think about that when we're going through our words today, okay? Remember that silent E is going to change that other vowel sound to the long and strong sound, okay? All right, so our first word, don't write it yet, just kind of listen. Our first word is take. So I want you to think, do you hear that long and strong A sound, or do you hear the long and strong I sound? Ache. Good. Hopefully you've said the long and strong A sound. We hear ache. So let's stretch that out. So I know I'm going to write it here with my long and strong A. So I hear first that T sound, right? And then I hear my long and strong A sound, ache. And then I hear the K sound, and I know there's two letters that make that K sound. It could be C or it could be K. It's going to be the K this time, but I understand if you put C, because C does make that K sound. That's just something that as you get older, you're just going to learn how to spell that. And then I'm not going to leave this, because right now it says ah, right? It has that short A sound. So to make it long and strong, I'm going to add the silent what? The silent E. Very good. So it changes it from tack to take. Very good. All right, let's do another word. Our next word is bike. Bike. So do you hear the long and strong A sound, or do you hear the long and strong I sound? What do you think? Good. Hopefully you said the long and strong I sound. Ike. So let's stretch it out. I know I'm going to put it over here because it has that same long and strong I sound that like has. So if I stretch it out, I hear that B sound, right? I hear that B at the beginning. And then if I'm stretching it out, I definitely hear that long and strong I sound. Ike. And then same thing as over here. I hear that K sound, and I know C can make that k sound, but just as I got older, I just learned it's not the C, it's the K in this word. And then I can't forget my silent what? My silent E, because right now it says bic. Right now it's the short I. But if I add that silent E on the end, then it's going to change that I to say I instead of it. Very good. All right. Oh, and you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to have you underline where we saw that silent E in the end of that word. So we're going to underline and take. We're going to underline the A, K, and E because that silent E is changing that other vowel sound, that A sound. Same thing right here. I'm going to underline the end of my word because that silent E is changing that I to the long and strong I sound. All right, we'll do that with the other ones too. All right, so our next word is shake. Shake. So do you hear the long and strong A sound or do you hear the long and strong I sound? What do you think? Hopefully you said the long and strong A sound. Ache. So let's stretch it out. So I know it's going to go under my A, under my word that has the A in it. And this time I hear a hunk and chunk. Shh. What two letters make that sh sound? S-H. Good. S-H. Sh, sh, sh. So I know it's going to start with an S and an H. Very good. Now I hear my long and strong A sound. Sh, ache. So I hear my A, and then again, I hear that k sound, and it could be a C, but I just know because I've written it a lot of times, and as I've gotten older, I've just learned that it's not the C, it's the K. So I'm going to put a K right here, and then right now, it's the short A sound. So what do I put at the end to make that A long and strong? The E, the silent E. Very good. So let's underline that A-K-E, the ending of the word, because we know that silent E is going to change that A to make it long and strong. Good job. All right, let's do a few more. Our next word is spike. Spike. So think about it. What sound do you hear in the middle of spike? Long and strong A or long and strong I? What do you think? Hopefully you said long and strong I. Good. Spike. So let's put that under like, just like has the long and strong I sound. So let's stretch it out. This time, I don't hear a hunk and chunk. I hear two letters that when I blend them together, it makes that sp sound. So I hear the sp, sp. Very good. S-P makes that sp sound. Then I hear my long and strong I sound. So I hear sp, I. And then again, you hear that k sound. It could be a C, but it's not C. It's that other letter that makes that k sound, and that's the K. And then I know, what do I need to put at the end to make this long and strong? Because right now it says spick. How do I make it spike? The silent E. Very good. And then I'm going to underline my I-K-E. So I know that E is making that I long and strong. Good job. I love that you guys are doing such a good job with this. I just know that you are. Even though I can't really see you right now, I know you're working hard and you're doing everything that I'm doing. All right, let's do a couple more. Our next word is strike. Strike. So what sound do you hear in the middle of strike? Yes, the long and strong I sound. So we're going to put it under our word like because it's the same thing. It ends in that same sound, right? So let's see if we can stretch it out. So I hear str. This one's a little tougher because there's actually 3 letters that we're going to blend together to make that str sound. So first I hear s. I hear that S sound. Hopefully you said that too. Then this is where it gets a little trickier after that S sound. If I stretch it out, str, it sounds a little bit like the CH, the ch, but it's not CH. It's actually TR. Sometimes with the way that we say it, it sounds like the ch sound, that hunk and chunk, but it's actually TR, and we're just blending those sounds together. So sometimes it can sound like that. Like when you say like train or tray or tree, it sounds like that CH, but it's actually TR. We're saying like terrain or tree or tray. We just say it so fast sometimes it sounds like CH. All right, so we have Ike. What do we hear? The long and strong I sound. Good. And then we hear that K that we know is not a C. And then what do we put at the end to make that I long and strong? A silent E. Very good. So let's underline that I-K-E. So I don't know about you, but I'm seeing a pattern. All of our words end in that Ike word family. Yeah, so all of them end in that silent E, and all of them are changing that I from I to I. Good job. All right, let's do one more word. Our last word is break. Break. So think about it. What sound do you hear in the middle of break? Do you hear that A sound or the I sound? What do you think? All right, hopefully you said the long and strong A sound. So we're going to put that under our word make because it ends in the same thing. That break, ache. It still ends in that same sound. So let's stretch it out. So let's see. Brr, brr, break, brr. What two letters are we blending together? What two letters do you hear? Brr. I hear B-R. Brr, brr. Very good. Hopefully you heard that too. If you didn't, then go ahead and write that down, okay? All right, and then I hear the long and strong what? Brr, A. The long and strong A sound. And then, of course, we know that that's a K because it's not a C, not in these words. And then we have that silent what on the end? A silent E. Very good. And we know that that silent E changes that A to the long and strong A sound. So go ahead and underline that word ending A-K-E if you haven't done that yet. Very good, you guys. So I'm looking, just like in our words under the word like, they all ended in that Ike sound. Well, all of these end in the ache sound. So the most important thing that I want you to remember from doing this analogy chart is that anytime that you have a silent E on the end, that it's going to change that other vowel to make it long and strong, okay? So you guys did such a great job, and now we're going to do a little bit with our new strategy. But we're going to take a break first in case you need to take a break. So we'll do that first, and then we'll do our new strategy. Okay, so you guys just worked really hard on that analogy chart. So now what I want you to do is take a break if you need to. If you don't, then just let this keep playing. But if you do need to take a break, then go ahead and press pause, and then I'll meet you back here when you're ready. Okay, so we're going to learn a new strategy this week that you actually probably already use a whole lot, but it's such an important one that I want to make sure that I mention it to you all and make sure that we're still using it if you're not, okay? And it's called Eagle Eye. And so Eagle Eye is an awesome strategy to use if you get stuck on a word, because we know it's going to happen, right? We're going to get stuck on words. And a lot of times when you get stuck on a word, the first thing that you want to do is look at the picture, because there's so many times that the picture is going to help you figure out that word that you're stuck on. So as we read the book, at some point I'm going to pop in and I will kind of show you what that looks like, how I can use Eagle Eye and look at the picture to help me figure out a word that I don't know what it is. So remember, using the picture is always a good strategy to use. Whether you're using it already or you haven't yet, we are going to start, okay? So make sure that you're using the picture if you get stuck on a word, and using the other strategies that we've talked about too, like Skippy Frog and Chunky Monkey. So make sure that you're using those too if you get stuck on a word, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our book, Into the Ocean. So our book that we're reading this week is called In the Ocean. And so if you were looking down at Earth from space, you would see a lot of blue. And that's because all of that blue is the water that you would see. And Earth is made up of a lot of water. And so in this book, we're going to read some really interesting facts about the oceans and what lives in them. But as you're reading, I want you to be thinking about what are some details or key pieces of information. And when I say key, I mean important. So key or important pieces of information that you learned about the ocean, because when you're finished reading the book, what you're going to do back on Seesaw is you're going to tell me some things that you learned about the ocean, some facts or pieces of information that you learned, okay? So let's get started. So one of the things that we are going to learn a lot about in first grade are called text features. And text features are different things that you'll see in a nonfiction or an informational book that really help you understand what you're reading better. So I bet some of you might even know what text feature I notice on this page. What do you notice? Yeah, so hopefully you said table of contents. If you didn't, that's okay. That's why we're looking at it and that's why we're talking about it. So if you notice on this page, you'll see the title of the book, but then you'll also see where they're listing different parts of the book and what they talked about throughout the book. And if you look, if you follow it and you go over, it'll tell you a number, and that number is the page that you'll find that on. So if I wanted to know more about, let's see, if I wanted to know more about salt water, well then all I would have to do is look at my table of contents, find where it says salt water, which is right here, and then move my finger over and it says page 4. So instead of having to flip through the whole book, it helps me find where I need to go a little bit quicker, okay? So don't forget about that table of contents because we'll definitely talk about it again later. It's very helpful when you're reading a nonfiction book or about things that are real, like the ocean. Okay, so I know that we are talking about a whole lot of different things with this book, but they're all so important. And so one thing that I want to teach you guys is a really cool strategy that I like to use when I'm trying to take information and I want to put it in my own words. So when I do that, that's called paraphrasing. So everybody say paraphrase. Good. So paraphrase just means I'm taking information and I'm not just reading it right off the page. I'm taking that information and I'm putting it in my own words. I'm not just reading it right from the book. So my strategy that I like to use is called STP. So you can see my little picture that just popped up. And so STP stands for stop, think, paraphrase. So that means I'm going to stop. I'm going to think about what I just read, and then I'm going to paraphrase. That means I'm going to put it in my own words. I'm not just going to read it right from the book. So if we look at these two pages, pages 2 and 3, well, we can read all about, when you look down from space, what it looks like. So instead of, if I want to paraphrase, instead of just reading, when you look down from space, you can see that our Earth looks blue. Instead of just reading it right from the book, if I wanted to put it in my own words, well, I could say, if I were up in space and I looked down, I would see a lot of blue. So do you see how I didn't just read it right from that page? I took that information and I kind of put it in my own words. So that's what I want you to do with this page, but also every other page when you read it. So pause the video and I want you to follow that STP. So stop, think about what you just read, and then see if you can paraphrase and put some of that information in your own words. So see if you can do that. Okay, so let's actually practice our strategy eagle eye that we talked about at the beginning of our book. So remember, eagle eye means that I'm going to look at the picture to help me figure out a word that I'm stuck on, that I don't know what it is. So if we look at pages 12 and 13, I'm going to start right here. And I'm going to pretend, now I know what the word is, but that's just because I've had a lot of practice reading. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to pretend to get stuck on a word, and I'm going to kind of show you how I can use the picture to figure out what that word is, okay? All right, so kind of follow along with me. See? I don't think I know what that word is. Okay, if I look at the pictures, I see a jellyfish, I see a sea star, I see a seahorse, but then right below that, I see what looks like a turtle, but it just looks a little different. And if I look at that word, it starts with a T, and it looks like turtles. It looks like it could be the word turtles, and that's what that picture is showing. So let me see if that makes sense. Sea turtles live in the ocean. I think that makes sense. It makes sense, and it matches my picture. There's a picture of a turtle, and it looks like it could be a sea turtle right next to it. So do you see how I used that picture to help me figure out what that word was? You can always do the same thing, and especially in a nonfiction book, you're going to be able to use those real photographs to figure out those words that you don't know, okay? So make sure you use that strategy if you get stuck on a word. So here we see one of my favorite text features. Remember, I told you earlier that we're going to learn a lot about different text features that we see in nonfiction or informational books. And my favorite one is what you see right here on the very last page. And it's called, do you know? A glossary. And the reason I love a glossary is because a lot of times when I read a nonfiction book, I might get to a word that I know what that word says, like I can read it, but I don't know what it means. So even though I can read it, if I don't know what that word means, well, then there's no point in me reading the word. I want to make sure that I understand what I'm reading. So when I read nonfiction books and I get to a word that I don't know what it means, well, a lot of times it'll be in the glossary and it'll explain what that word means. So, for example, if I didn't know what the word, let's see, pray. If I didn't know what the word pray meant when I'm reading this book, well, I can flip to the back of the book and look at the glossary, and I can see it says an animal hunted or killed by another animal for food. And then that helps me understand that word and helps me understand what I'm reading even better, which is why text features like the glossary is so important, or are so important. So hopefully you guys learned a lot of good things about what we can see in the ocean, because now what you're going to do is you're going to go back to Seesaw and you're going to tell me some facts that you learned from our book. So what were some big pieces, or not big, but little pieces of information that you learned from our story, from our book? And I also want to see, can you paraphrase? So remember, that means not just copying right from the book, but can you put that information in your own words? Okay, so try that. I bet you can do it. So nice job. We worked really hard this week, and I'll meet you back here again next week for another book.